Welcome to FedCap Group's Corporate Compliance Online Training. This training is conducted to ensure adherence to all state, local, and regulatory laws and standards. FedCap and its affiliated companies are mandated to have a corporate compliance program based on one or more of the following criteria. One is that our organization operate in Article 28 or Article 36 under the Public Health Law. The other is that we operate at Article 16 or Article 31 under the Mental Health Hygiene Law. The last is if we are receiving directly or indirectly $500,000 or more in Medicaid money within the last 12 months or 2 consecutive years. Depending on your state, each government entity will promote and protect integrity of the Medicaid program. Each state's work in collaboration with the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, also known as CMS, the Office of Inspector General, also known as OIG, and any state-specific Medicaid fraud control units to prevent, identify, and investigate any fraud, waste, and abuse, not limited to working with the District Attorney's Office in all efforts. Through this online training, FedCap is committed to preventing and detecting any fraud, waste, and abuse. This training will define what corporate compliance is and the importance of compliance, describing to you the 7 elements that drives the process of the program and how FedCap uses these elements to promote adherence. Corporate compliance is not always a negative impact. It benefits us as an organization in following best practices, having policies and procedures in place, including and not limiting to auditing mechanisms, allowing for us to detect, prevent, and recover. You will know what to report, how to report, and learn what happens to the information provided. Please do know that we have a commitment to confidentiality and security of all information. We have a non-retaliation policy to create a culture of reporting without retribution. By the end of this training, you will have access to policies and procedures, the ability to prevent, detect, report, escalate, and mitigate incidents. Through this training, you will also know when to initiate a business associate agreement, when to self-disclose, and the importance of proper billing practices. We at FedCap recognize the seriousness of the issues raised by the government, and failure to comply with applicable law and regulations could threaten the agency's continued participation in healthcare programs, more specifically Medicaid and Medicare. Laws and regulations change expediently, and we are committed to ensure our adherence and education as these rules change. Compliance can be defined in many ways and is always the right thing to do. It is the way we conduct business in an ethical and legal manner following contractual, government, state, and local guidelines. Following these guidelines lead to internal processes that are created through performance improvement or quality assurance as we may know it. Out of these processes, we create best practice and metrics to monitor the success of improvement and mitigate any risk. All these initiatives of improvement are an insurance investment towards reputation, quality service, and financial health. A compliance program has 7 elements that initiates the framework in doing the right thing. Element 1, policies and procedures providing guidance, which can be found on the intranet. Element 2, a designated compliance officer by the organization to monitor the program and have a direct line of communication to the governing body and the Corporate Compliance Committee in reporting of incidents and progress of the program. Element 3, staff education, educating staff upon hire and annually, and ensuring documentation of that training. Element 4, internal monitoring process to respond to the allegations that are reported, Any issues or concerns can be reported via email or through the hotline. The hotline allows for you to report anonymously. Element 5, record keeping of all allegation, issues, or concerns that are reported related to compliance, ensuring that it's documented, investigated, remediated with a plan of correction to prevent any future instances of that same infraction. Element 6, investigating and identifying problems and correcting them, as we are transparent and all at the same time writing the process. Element 7, preventing and mitigating compliance concerns, ensuring that frequent sample audits are completed internally to review our adherence to the process and the improvement, measuring the outcomes of success upon each sample audit and the findings. Compliance is an element of performance and reflects upon the success of our compliance program. Let it be in accordance with the contract, the government, or our own agency guidelines. Our job performance is an element of compliance, including and not limited to updating our policies on changes and requirements set forth to follow. There are consequences for non-compliance ranging from minimal to maximum sanctions. Non-compliance can be a financial loss to our organization by way of inappropriate billing, such as duplicate billing, falsifying bills, no supporting documentation, and billing for services not rendered. All these billing issues can result in write-offs and internal adjustments that negatively impact the organization. Other consequences for non-compliance or infractions could be fines, suspension of license, or services. It is not uncommon for employees to discipline staff, including and not limited to terminating individuals from the organization based on performance that attributes to non-compliance. We rely on you to be the eyes and the ears of the organization and do the right thing. We talked about reporting. So what exactly do I report? You would report fraud, waste, and abuse, improper billing practices, bribes and kickbacks, breach of information such as HIPAA, privacy, or security concerns, unethical staff behavior, and unethical or inappropriate care or use of an equipment. Compliance is everyone's responsibility. We have speak up posters throughout the organization to encourage reporting with all communication methods in doing so. Even when unsure, please feel free and comfortable enough to reach out for clarity. This includes and is not limited to your supervisor and other leaders within the organization that you feel comfortable enough reporting to. There is an Ethics Point hotline for those who wish to report anonymously. All reporting is confidential. The Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act, also known as HITECH, is part of the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. This act created incentives related to healthcare information technology, including incentives for the use of electronic health records systems amongst providers, focusing on HIPAA, privacy, and security. The initiative behind this was to allow for sharing of health information amongst providers and utilizing a business associate agreement as a commitment to adhere to regulations and laws set forth to protect this information. Not having an electronic health record in place also increased penalties for organizations due to the risks associated with securing information. Not only was penalties increased, the Attorney General enforced these laws as patients had more say on what information was disclosed. We want to continue the conversation around enforcement on the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act of 2009. As the State Attorney General seeks damages and/or fines for privacy and security violations, we want to ensure that we do not compromise ourselves and the organization in willingly participating in any actions that will result in civil suit. As we just mentioned, business associate agreements. Just keep in mind that a part of conducting business, letting it be a partnering program, contracting, or consulting, we are required to put a business associate agreement in place to ensure that individuals understand the conditions in doing business with our organization and their responsibility in reporting and/or accessing our information. Please note, our online HIPAA awareness module delves into HIPAA in greater detail and also discusses business associate agreements. We talk about the consequence of data breaches, which leads to the importance of security data. We keep record either through paper or electronically. In keeping paper documents, we should ensure that we have this data under lock and key with only people who are authorized to have access. Electronic files are just as vulnerable as ever. Each individual should have their own designated user and password to access information. And walking away from your computer and/or any other device authorized, it should be password protected and logged out for security purposes. As you can see, I use the word authorized device by FedCap as an indication that you shall not use your personal device and accessing sensitive information without all the security measures in place. We should be very aware of the type of information we are passing through text on our phones. Utilizing a FedCap email provides all the security needed and an option to encrypt this information for the recipient's eyes only. One of the best ways to manage breaches is to ensure we secure all data. Not only is texting a security concern, but so is our use of social media. FedCap has specific policies around social media and the use. If for any reason your work device is stolen or lost, you should contact your supervisor and IT immediately, as there are measures in place to secure as much information as we can. IT has been working diligently on multi-factor identification related to mobile devices and has specific security on the distributed laptops for security reasons. As soon as you become aware of any breach of information, do not hesitate to contact us immediately, for we have processes in place to investigate, mitigate, and move forward. A breach is a type of security incident at which data is disclosed, including and not limited to identifiable personal information. These are usually a result of phishing emails, requesting for information, and at times impersonating someone internally with authority. You may be even asked to change your password and ask for access to security-related information that infiltrates your computer and email. We as an organization must be very diligent in safeguarding information that is requested and disclosed. This includes bank information, social security, address, name, and other personal identifiable information. All information requests must be handled with care and taken through proper channels prior to releasing. Consult HR or FedCap legal counsel before dispersing of information, including and not limited to picking up the phone and contacting the person internally that may be allegedly requesting the information. If more than 500 people information is breached, we have an obligation to notify the individuals, report to the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and notify the media. When it comes to self-disclosure, we have the ability to be truthful and transparent as it relates to billing errors, fraud, waste, and abuse, false claims, and incorrect invoicing. By contacting the appropriate persons internally and externally, to ensure resolution, allowing us as an organization to correct a wrong. It also requires us to correct all systems reflecting the correct revenue. Keep in mind that the resolution could be to the extent of crediting monies back for services not rendered. How does being compliant benefit me, you, and us? It provides guidance and education that fosters a commitment of honesty, responsibility, and accountability. It allows us to identify and prevent any unethical behavior, and it encourages us to report and do the right thing. Another benefit is knowing your concerns are taken seriously and will be addressed promptly with the full investigation, upholding confidentiality, and correcting any concerns. It sets an expectation of best practices and consistency in how we conduct business. As we conclude this training, remember, compliance involves everyone in the organization, and you are valued in our initiative to prevent, identify, and resolve any compliance infractions. Your adherence and vigilance allows for our organization to avoid fines, suspension, or have a license revoked, and the ability to promptly identify and mitigate any compliance issues. If you have any compliance concerns, please feel free to report via email at corporatecompliance@fedcap.org or the hotline at 866-384-4277. To conclude this training, there is a quiz with 10 questions in reference to compliance. Upon scoring a 90% or higher, you will have completed this training. Thank you for participating in FedCap's corporate compliance training.